In this episode, we will talk about dealing with Filipino neighbors. Armin127 says, neighbor lied about trespassing and freaked out. Today, I got into a serious argument for the first time in over 2 years. I have two feral cats that live near the entrance of my home. One gave birth 2 days ago, but she chose to do so in my neighbor's garage, a semi-enclosed area that she can easily enter and exit through various openings. My neighbor has basically built a house inside a house. The outer structure is missing one wall and serves as a garage storage unit. The open side partially contains a typical Filipino wood stone dwelling, so the outer building is somewhat open. It's really a house within a house with typical Filipino semi-finished construction everywhere. It's also full of trash and contains 2 dogs and a tiny cage. Anyway, I asked the owner's daughter, who's about 20 to 25 years old today, if I could check on the kittens. She initially refused and started making odd arguments, saying it was dangerous, there were rats, etc. I easily dismissed her concerns and pointed out that there were kittens, and she softened. She then gave in and explicitly said I could go inside to check on them. Only then did I step inside. She showed me the way and pointed out the exact spot where she'd last seen the cat. We then went back outside and she said she would bring me the kittens if she found them. I declined and told her to leave them alone for now, since they are still too small. I thanked her, said goodbye, and returned to the entrance of my house where I continued talking with two friends. 20 minutes later, the girl came back out again and started raising her voice, claiming I couldn't trespass and that they could sue me for trespassing. She insisted that I had gone inside without her permission and invaded their privacy. At first, we thought she'd made a mistake, but it turned out she didn't like that I talked her into showing me the garage and had now come back to lie about not letting me in. The girl had even helped me navigate the space, advised me to turn on my flashlight, showed me everything, and talked with me about the cat. I repeatedly told her to go home, but then her siblings arrived, and it escalated with, here in the Philippines, we are in the Philippines, Filipino this and Filipino that. Court, police, acting super important. I let my friends handle it and removed myself to de-escalate the situation. My friends prevented them from calling the barangay police and told me to keep it cool and to avoid them for now. She basically wanted to power trip on me the first time I asked her, but was too weak and gave in, then came back to power trip anyway by lying. She was literally making a scene because the little girl failed to play important homeowner. I don't really care since I have the phone number of an international law firm in Manila ready. They charge close to Swiss rates and are foreign owned. And I know my way around people and how to make friends and get what I want. But I really dislike how vulnerable foreigners are here in the Philippines. I hope there will one day be a government in the Philippines that understands how much more money foreigners could bring in if they would drop this Pinoy pride thing and treat foreigners with more respect. No Filipino in Switzerland needs to worry about their visa because of an argument with a neighbor. We treat them so well in our countries, yet here you are constantly told to run away from every conflict because you are so vulnerable as a foreigner. Not to mention how normalized lying in the Philippines is. Edit, just to make it clear, I talked to the girl on the street and got introduced to her by another neighbor I know very well. There were about 10 people watching us. Her parents were home. She did put on a show to act important to impress her friends. It was cringe and obvious. And that's why I didn't let go immediately. Low nectarine response and comments by saying, FYI, any court case in the Philippines can last for an exorbitant amount of time unless you plan on spending years there. You might want to plan an exit strategy. Hopeful Bison says, I have a number of a law firm that charges Swiss rates a bit cringe as fuck. Let's stop there a moment. Yes, the Swiss lawyer comment was out of pocket, as well as you saying that you know how to get what you want. Sounds like you yourself are a bully. Not to mention, when she refused, you simply should have let it go. Filipinos abuse animals all the time. You cannot save them all. If you want to stand up for something, sure you can. You can stand up for rights of animals, but I tell you this, they don't care, and the court system take years, and rarely do foreigners win after spending tens of thousands of dollars. You are correct about being vulnerable. That is not the issue. But you seem to think you know how the Philippines works. If you did, you simply would have backed down. This is not a hill you want to die on. Or perhaps it is, and maybe even literally in the Philippines. As we all know, life is not as important or valuable as in other countries. True Particular says, I get your intentions were good, but effectively what you just read was, I asked the young girl if I could go onto their private property. She said no, and was uncomfortable. I then pressed her until she said yes. Be careful. Definitely one way of looking at it, and it does sound like that. Scrapa says, I know how to get what I want, and so he shows us LOL. Over 20 years old, she's a woman, not a girl, says another person. Armin responds by saying, Armin is the original poster of this. Her parents were at home. She's about 22 or 23 years old and studies at a university. She was also not uncomfortable. Besides, their house is a guy who rents out computers to teenagers, young adults. So the teenagers were watching as she put on a show, acting like a super important homeowner to impress the other young adults. It was super obvious and cringe. She just got annoyed later for failing at this. Perhaps you are right, but as you mentioned, the Philippines does not take lightly with foreigners and arguments and conflicts. Like others have said, she initially declined, and while you believe you persuaded her, she probably felt like she gave into pressure, says Afroman Manola. They are different here. In some of our countries, this wouldn't have been an issue, but clearly there was a miscommunication due to culture nuances, not words. Precisely, I would have to agree, sometimes Pinoys can get easily pressured into doing things they do not want to, and afterwards they make a fuss. KK Coot says, be careful, if you are living in a barangay, you are completely outnumbered there by her family, extended family, and friends, and she may even have relatives on the barangay council and or members of the police or military. I have heard that neighbors of barangays who don't like someone can report them to barangay officials, who in turn can blacklist them and report them to the Bureau of Immigration, who can then arrest them and have them deported if a foreigner. Who knows where this could end? And even if what you say is true, there is such a thing as corruption in the Philippines that it doesn't matter what's true and not true or how great your lawyer is. I'm thinking you are playing with fire and over your head. Careful you don't get burnt. This is accurate. It does not matter whether you are in the right or you think you have the right of law in your favor. In the barangays, you have to use your discretion. No sugar daddy. Just don't coerce, and Buddy here is acting pretty privileged in my opinion, says Dependence C. All users' names taken says, first thing I did in my home country when a feral cat entered my property and didn't want to leave was to take them to a vet to get spayed. If I'm going to take care of an animal, especially if it's not thoroughbred, with papers to back it up, it's to prevent them from having a litter. This person is living in Fantasyland. You think someone in the Philippines is going to take a random cat to the vet to get spayed? You are dreaming. Melodic Vast says, this is your issue. Don't engage. Get someone else to ask for the kittens. The girl is young and not used to a foreigner going into her house. You seem to be missing a lot of expecting her to act like an educated woman from your home country. Why would she have to act and think like someone from your country? You thought it would be fine to go alone into her home, but it wasn't. How can you not see that being alone with a girl in her 20s isn't a good idea? I would not go as far as to say it's not a good idea. And don't be a fool thinking all these women are innocent. But as a man, you should protect yourself, your finances, and your reputation. And I too will not have got inside. It's not your issue. You cannot save the animals. You cannot save the people. All you can do is protect yourself. Where do you stand regarding this story? Do you think the man is right? Do you think most of these comments are correct, that he should not have engaged? The best comment from yesterday's video about too many single mothers in the Philippines is from TSIF. To any young men that may see this, Asian men don't even consider taking on another man's offspring. They consider having and raising their own children to be the number one goal in life. The time and money and effort required not to be squandered on someone else's. They see foreigners doing it as fools. Precisely. And there is no worse comment, as no one can dispute the number of single mothers in the Philippines. Subscribe to the channel to find out more facts and truths about this land. Thanks for listening. God bless.